Alright, I just recorded a video and I just finished it off. This is that video. I would recommend you to go and check out the GitHub link right down in the description. Check out each page, check out where the data is coming from, what are the server functions doing, what is the API doing, where is the data coming from, how do I want to frame that data, how am I reshaping that data so that we can, it will be a good experience if you go to the link down below and check it out. Will also be a great experience if you when you are checking out that link. Above it there's like a like button and a subscribe button right next to it. It's great. It's like a red colored thing and it's great to press. Trust me, it's great. That's what I would recommend. Watch this video in 1.5x. I have sped up the parts which are irrelevant, where I'm just mumbling and where I'm not making any sense. I'm just writing code and mumbling to myself. So those have been fast forwarded. And I hope you enjoy this video. So the thing is that we will be using a package called Next Themes, which just takes care of the dark mode and everything else for you. So basically what you would be doing is you would manually would have to do this. So the thing is, in Tailwind, you will see that when this page loads, there will be an HTML lang English over here. And when we add Next Themes to this, we just add a class named light or dark over here in the HTML tag, which tells the components or tells Tailwind whether to show the dark version or the light version of that component. So that's how this works, and we'll have to do that ourselves. That tells the Tailwind components whether to show the dark version of the app or the light. So for example, right here, we specify different classes for the dark mode and the light mode. So we need to tell Tailwind somehow that we are using the dark mode right now, or are we using the light mode right now, or are we using the system default right now. So that's basically what Next Themes does. So let's add Next Themes and then we'll move on. I think this is very well explained on Shadcn's website, shadcn.ui, this one. So if you go to documentation and you check out the dark mode section of this documentation, you go to Next.js, you'll see what it is, how to add a dark mode to your app. So first we'll have to create a theme provider, I'll just copy it from here, but I'll explain it how it works. Let's go to source, let's go to components. There is nothing in components, so let's create a new. This is the React component that we are creating right here. Let's paste our thing and then everything is fine. Now the thing what is happening here is that this component right here, this component will add dark mode to our entire thing. So it will add the classes, it will take care of all the other implementations that we need to apply dark mode to our app. And as you can see, this is a client component, so that's why we need to specify a different component right here, because this works on the client and not on the server. It takes our app and puts it right here in place of the children, because now our app will be a child of this Next Themes provider. So we'll go to our layout, so basically the main page of our app, and I'll just paste this from Shadcn UI again. I'm going to take this right here. This is Next Themes. This does very little to do with Shadcn's component library or with this website at all. It is just Next Themes. This website just has a nice tutorial for how to apply it. So I'm going to wrap my body with this and I'm going to put it right here. I will put it inside of the body. And that is that. Next, let's see what do we have to do. We have to add a toggle button. So let's get the code for the toggle button. Let's create a new component for the toggle button. Now you will notice that we have a lot of components missing. Let's add all of these components from Shadcn's UI. Now, if you don't know what this library is, this is a component library. It's a copy and paste library. You can copy the code directly from here as well. You can copy it and use it in your own app. But this library also gives a nice CLI tool right here to add all the components. It will be easier. It configures everything for you and it takes care of everything. So I prefer using the CLI tool. We need a button. We need Redux UI React icons. So let's do this first. And while this happens, we'll go to button and drop down menu. We haven't initialized this library in our app yet. So let's go and initialize it, install it, go over here. We have an app created, and this is what initializes it. Let's go to npm and do it. Now I was talking about the configurations, right? It does certain configurations to our Next.js app, and it helps us work with their component better. That's what we are doing. We are configuring our Next.js app right now. Yes, I would never not use Typescript. Default, just keep. Now our globals file is in source app and globals. So we are not in app/globals. We are using a source directory. So we use. Now we already have a Tailwind config.ts. It will be replaced by Tailwind config.js right now. So we'll have to delete the TS at all because we don't really need it. We'll just take the JS configuration. And now we will be able to add our button and our drop-down menu easily. And it will be configured. It will have primary colors. The theme will be taken care of. Everything will be fine. So let's wait for this to happen. Let's now go back and add our button and drop-down menu, which will be very easy to add now. I mean, there's no way we could have added it at this point because you wouldn't know where to put, because the CLI tool wouldn't know where to put the components or do anything, where the styles are, anything like that. This keeps all that information, where the CSS file is, where the config file is, what the base color is, everything. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Alright, now as you can see, this is done. This is not throwing any more errors right now, and now our installation is complete. Let's go to dev, and before that, okay, so there's no change right now. We need to create a toggle button, which we just created from shadcn. It's just a simple drop-down menu and a button that uses the theme, it comes from Next Themes itself. And it sets the theme, whatever you want. So you can use this entire component, or you can use set theme alag se. Sorry, I just switched into another language. Sorry. You can switch, themes wherever you want to switch themes from. I'm going to use this component to switch themes from, and I'm going to take this component. I'm going to go to my layout, and I'm right after the children. I'm going to use this thing. I'm going to zap it, add it. And then I'm going to give it an absolute positioning. So we are getting an error. It cannot get Lucid React. Now I know where this error is coming from, and I am going to fix it right now. So there is the error, and apparently it has to do something with the versions of Next.js and Lucid React. So we'll degrade Lucid React and upgrade Next. We're going to run yarn again to install our new packages, the new version of our packages at least. I'm going to run it again, and let's see if that fixed the problem or not. Okay, yeah, that works. And as you can see, our toggle is right here, a theme toggle that is absolutely positioned. Let's change it to light mode. Wow, great, right? So that's how this works. That's what I wanted to show you in the last video. You use Next Themes, which takes care of everything. Now I will show you what I was talking about earlier. Look at this. The class changes to dark. So our app knows which mode to show. This class goes to each component. It is carried forward to each of the children. And then it checks, all right, what is the style for the dark component? So if you go to our page, it will tell, all right, dark from black via black. This is the style. For the dark version of this component, this is the style, things like that. And that's how it switches everything. So it's not even visible. The navbar is not even visible. All right, so we'll stay here and we'll change it right here. And now we are going to start with the connection to the database. We are going to go to the Drizzle documentation because we are not going to be using Prisma. It's pretty good, helps you with a lot of stuff. And setting it up right now, it's not very well documented. So, I put in a lot of time to figure out how this works. So yeah, all right. So we are going to move ahead. We are going to copy this right here. We are going to paste it in our app. To go here, we're going to exit it. We're going to paste it. We're going to install what we need to install to get this working. It's going to be resolving those packages and doing everything for us. Till that is happening, we can copy this right here. We can take it to our own folder. We are going to create in the lib, we are going to create a DB. No, we are going to create a new DB folder. Let's do that. So we're going to create a new DB folder in which there will be index. So dp/index.yes. Over here, let's post everything like it tells us to. But we are missing this right now. And now we can go ahead and look at how to set up Postgres with Next.auth. So Drizzle is done. Now we should go to the auth.js documentation and check out how do we do that. So we are going to use the new Drizzle adapter. The documentation is right here for Postgres. So I'm just going to copy it. This is the schema for it. So I'm going to go to DB. I'm going to create another file, schema.ts, and I'm going to paste it right here. As you can see right now, we have an error because we don't have this installed. So let's install that. Unexpected error, auth.course. We do not have this. Let's go here. Alright, so apparently we don't. So we'll copy it, we'll paste it right here, and let's. Alright, so now that works. And our errors are gone. This is the schema that Next.auth recommends us to use. This is not, I'm not doing this on my own. I'm just reading the docs just like you would. But it's a nice introduction, I guess. So we are going to go there. We are going to check out the setup. The setup is right here. MySQL, we're going to go ahead. And now we are going to not worry about our schemas anymore. The next step is to add a few scripts to our schema. I'm going to copy it from where I have it already. And before we copy that, we have to create a Drizzle config file. Before I forget, we're going to add drizzle.config.ts. Advance that. And I'm going to get this out and paste it here. I'll explain what this is. This is a default configuration for my Drizzle usage in this application. So Drizzle knows what my driver is, where my schema is coming from, what the connection string is, and where to put the migration files. Now these migration files are SQL files that Drizzle is going to use to interact with our Postgres database that is running on serverless. Great, right? So I'm going to save that right here. And now I'm going to go back and I'm going to explain you what those scripts did. The first script that we will have to learn, the first script will generate the SQL files that will be used to interact with the database. So let's try and run that. Let's see if that works. Yarn db enumerate. Now this is going to fail, and this is not going to fail. This is going to run. But we have to add something to the end of this thing, but it's not going to work because it requires something like SSL mode require without which it just doesn't seem to want to work. So I'm going to generate the files now. I'm going to do that. This is generating my SQL. Okay, this is another thing that we have to deal with. Says transforming cons to configure target is not supported yet. So you have to go to tsconfig right here and you have to change ES5 to ES6. Alright? And now run that again. And let's hope that it works. And it works. So if you go to the SQL file and check out what is here. So it just creates SQL to interact with our database. That's it. Okay, I'm just going to show you how to create a new thing. So I'm going to create a project right here. It's a pretty little button. I don't know why that is. I'm going to write threads. And yeah, alright, we'll select the closest server to me. And we'll go ahead and then we'll enable pool connection. We'll copy it from here. And over here, we'll, instead of NeonDB, we'll be using our own name. Let's just use the default name NeonDB. And after this, we'll be using SSL equals to true. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to .env. I'm going to have to delete it anyways. So I'll just do it right now. SSL mode require. Save it. And then I'm going to yarn db push. So this database right now, it's empty. It doesn't have anything, as you might notice here. Table 0. Let's generate it. We've already generated it, so it won't do anything. It just doesn't do anything. Now we will push it. We'll push the changes. And hopefully this works. And the changes have been applied. If we refresh the table right now, and the changes have been applied. So now that our changes have been applied to our database, now we can basically start setting up auth for our app. Finally, we are going to connect it to our next app using next auth, which we didn't. We haven't actually connected to it. We migrated all the schemas required for next auth with Drizzle. Right here, we created a DB and a schema file from documentation. We just took it, but we didn't give it. We didn't connect it to our next app. That's what we're going to do now. We're going to connect it to our next app. Let's go to our next auth documentation and check out how to do it in Next 13. I don't know how to do it. Okay, if you're using Next 13.2, so we are using more than Next 13.2, so we'll have to go to their guide. All right, so this is handling it with Next 13. So we'll have to create this right here. So we'll do that. Let's copy this path here directly so we can just paste it in our app. Go to app. Let's create a new file and paste this path right here. Done. And over here, we will take this and we will paste it. Let's remove that. We don't even have next auths. Let's stop everything. Let's take this and turn it into auth options. So, and let's give it auth options. Alright, this is not assignable, but we can extract this into its own folder, lib, which will be auth.ps, export const auth.ps, import auth from here, but it is not assignable. Let's give it a type, which is next auth options. Let's give it a provider. We'll be using Google provider for this because I have a Google account with client token, with the client and the those tokens. I have it ready right now, client and secret key. So I'm going to give it a Google provider. Look at my Google provider right here. Let's import a Google provider from next auth. Google. But now we have the provider, but we have to also provide it an adapter, right? How will it contact our database? So we'll use an adapter right here. And it is PG as GitHub Copilot is telling us, but it is not exact. So let's see if there's a Drizzle provider. There doesn't seem to be a Drizzle adapter right here. Where do we get the Drizzle adapter from? We'll have to add this right here. Let's check out the documentation again. And there it is. There is the Drizzle adapter. Let's add it. And from this right here, we can then get the Drizzle adapter. Now this is going to cause some type issue. We can just ignore it right now. Typescript gives us some errors sometimes that we might as well ignore. So I've done this before, so I know that this can be ignorable. There's just some mistake in the code, the Drizzle adapter code. And now it works, but Drizzle adapter won't work without any database connection to adapt to, you know what I mean? So you also have to give it a DB. So we take the DB and we'll give the DB right here from our, I hope you remember where this comes from. This comes from our whole Postgres setup that we did in the last section of this tutorial. Let's do that. Let's do that. The last part would be entering a client ID and client secret. I hope that you can do it yourself. I'm not going to guide you through everything. You should be able to Google things, go to YouTube, check out how to do it. Give some other people some views as well. Check out how to get a client ID and client secret from Google console. So I'm going to do it right now myself. I'm going to take my secret codes and paste it right here. So I've pasted my Google client ID and secret over here. I've also pasted next auth secret and next auth URL. So I can just show you right here what those are. This is not something that I want to hide. So I'll just show it to you right here. So my next auth secret is just a random sequence of characters. And my next auth URL is HTTP localhost 3000. They are just best practices. Next.secret will stop you from actually using the authentication service. So this is a must-have. You can't work without this. And next.url is, I guess, optional. But if it causes any problems, please add it to the .env file, and it should not cause any problems after that. So once we have that, okay. So now our Drizzle adapter has adapted to the whole thing. Let's try and run this app. But before that, how are we supposed to sign in, right? So let's go to our source file. Let's create a new component. Since we are not using client components anymore, we also have to specify where the sign-in page will live and where the sign-out page will live, things like that. So let's give it that as well. So let's use pages, and sign-in can be at auth sign-in, or just sign-in will work. Let's go to our app directory and create a new page, which is basically, let's store it under auth, and then we will use a sign-in folder which will have a page.tsx, and that should create a new page in the sign-in. Let's create a new component right here, which is going to be sign-in. I'm going to get my sign-in component, and then this page will take sign-in component, and I'll get the sign-in component next, which is just a simple component from here. Sign-in component is a simple component that takes this, and use of auth form is a client component which handles all of our things for us. So if we go over here and we just import sign-in, we will be able to import sign-in, and this is not a problem anymore. And now we can create a client component and the components folder. So let's go to components and let's create a user auth form .x. And over here, we will create a client component which handles everything for us. So we don't have the Toast installed in our entire thing. We won't use, let's install Toast. All right, so we can go over here and let's go to shadcn. Let's run our executable that will install our component for us. For this to work, we also need to add a toaster to our main layout. So let's go to our main layout. Okay, now every file is happy. So let's run our app again. Let's go to our main page. Let's remove everything that the Next.js boilerplate gives us. And in the main page, we will use our sign-in component, basically, which will guide us to the sign-in page that we just created. Let's add the link from next link, get the button from shadcn, and hopefully if everything goes right, we will be redirected to our Next.js page. A Next.js sign-in page, which will sign us in. Before I forget, of course, also we should go to lib auth, and we should also export function get auth session. This should be a and this get auth session will fetch the sign-in data, the authenticated data on the server itself. We don't have to do it on the client using hooks. So let's do that. Auth session equals to get auth session, await get auth session. Let's turn it into an instance function, and that should be it. Now there's a proper server component. Let's go to our main page, and yeah, that should be it. And let's use B, and yeah, I mean, that's a good guess. Let's refresh it. All right, so right now our session is null. All our tables have been pushed to our database as well. Hopefully, yes. All right, everything should be set up right about now. Let's hope for the best. Let's sign in. Okay, now we are directed to the sign in page. As you can see, let's sign in with Google. All right, let's sign in with my account. And it doesn't work. So there is an error. Let's see what the error is. Oh, the endpoint was not found. Maybe my database is the wrong one. My database URI is wrong, I guess. I'll just replace it with the new one. This is the old one, and what I just remembered is that I haven't given it a secret either. So let's give it a secret, which is not auth secret, it is secret. Just for the sake of it, let's import .env as well. .env.config, and that should take care of our environment variables. And let's try that again. Let's restart our server. We also didn't mention a session strategy, as in how to store our token, but let's try it. Nevertheless, let me go to another page and let me try it. Sign in with my Google account, and let's see if that works. Alright, see that was a problem. I haven't even used a session strategy or anything like that. I haven't enforced it, at least, and it just works. It just doesn't want it. But the problem is it just gives name, email, and image to our whole thing. We need more than that. We need to add a username. We need to add, I guess, an ID. I need the ID of the user as well. So we have a JWT callback, which stores all the data as a cookie on the client. Our entire schema, our user schema, it stores it on the client. And we will also check out the session callback, which takes in the token that we returned from the earlier client, and we can do things to our session, whatever we want to do, and then access it on our client. I know it sounds a little tough right now, but I will just explain it to you as we go. First, let's change the strategy. Session strategy JWT. Now our next auth knows that we'll be using JWT. Next, let's try callbacks. In this callback, let's try an async session. Now, in each callback, the thing about each callback is that whenever we have a callback like this, and JWT doesn't have a session, it has a token. In the session callback, we can do something to the session object that we will be accessing right here, and show it right now. So let's return it at the end of the session, and it will not cause any errors because the session callback wants us to return a session. Over here, we'll be doing something to the session. Similarly, in the JWT callback, we will return the token at the end, and before that, we can do something with the token. So for example, let's console log it right now. Let's go to our inspect element. Let's go to application. Let's check out our cookies, and you can see that auth variables. So let's clear all our cookies. Let's refresh it. And now we don't have a session anymore. Now that we don't have a session anymore, and we don't have any JWT token to refer to find out which user is logged in, let's console log the JWT. Let's sign in. Now, as you can see on my terminal, we have the token right here that we console logged right here. So, as you can see, it has everything about my account in my token right here. It has my name, email, picture. And similarly, if we log the session right here, we will also find that right here, similarly, it has the same things, except it has a user object inside the session, and it holds the 3 fields right here. Now the thing is, whenever we call this function, right now the JWT and the session have the same things, right? But whenever I call this thing, I also want a username to be added to my user object. So let's go to our schema and add a username. Now our schema has a username as well. Our user object has a username. But the thing is that this will not be forwarded to our database right now. Let's forward it to our database real quick. Let's run yarn db generate, and then yarn db push the new changes. Now, if we refresh this page, now user, as you can see right here, the user has a username as well. It is empty right now, but that's exactly what we're going to deal with right now. So once our database is aligned with our schema in our code, now we can check out the token right here. Use the token's ID. So let's see what token has. We will use the token's email to get the user from the database. So now that we have the email is going to be a string. Now using this email, we will try to retrieve our user from our own database right here. So let's try and do that. Const db user equals to array db.user. Let's see that db.select from users. Let's import the users from our schema, where get the equality condition from Drizzle ORM itself. Let's do that. The user's email should be equal to the email, which will be a string. So right now we should have access to our user, and if we don't have access to our user, we need to get the ID of the user that is logged in right now when this JWT callback is called, and attach it to the ID to the token. So token.id equals to user.id. But we don't have the user. We can get it from the JWT callback itself, and then immediately return the token. Now, if the user doesn't have a username, and our DB user, okay, I forgot about this. The thing is that when the DB user is fetched from the database, it is an array. So we need to get the first element of that array to get access to the user. So we can put this in a bracket, and then we can index this by 0. And then if DB user doesn't exist, do this. So we are accessing the first element of the array, and then we'll have access to the username right here. If the username doesn't exist, then I guess you have to update the user in the database itself. So we can update users and set the username to, I guess, Nanoid. Then we don't have Nanoid right now. Let's install it. And then at the end of this whole process, we can just return the token. We will be returning the token, but we will return the user itself. So we'll return the ID of the user, we'll return the email of the user, we'll return the username of the user, we will return the name of the user, and we will return the image of the user. Let's do that. And then, as you know, this JWT callback will return a token, which will then be forwarded to the session right here in this token. So let's see if we are getting the token in the session right here. Let's not console log anything in the JWT callback, but console log in the session callback. So when we access the session over here, we should get a console log, and hopefully the token that we receive in our session should have everything that we had. Alright, so we just had to restart the server, and as you can see, the token has everything. The token has all our values, but the username is still null. Alright, so the username seems to be still null. Let's try that again. Let's refresh it, and as you can see, that was the first callback. So the username was null because we hadn't updated the username still. So that's why it was null. After we updated it, we refreshed it, and then now we have a username. As you can see, username is null. Username is a random 10 character nano ID. I like to call it Nanoid. But the thing still remains that the session doesn't have these things. These things only exist on the token still. So let's add some of these things that we will need on the session. These things should be returned to us right here. So we can go to the session, we can remove this console log, and we can see if the token exists, if the token really does exist. As you can see, GitHub Copilot is really good at guessing what I'm about to do. So this is exactly what I'm about to do. Sessions ID should be changed to token ID, but this is one mistake that GitHub Copilot made. Session has a user object that has all these properties. So instead of this, we should get all of this. So user should have an ID, username, email, image, name and image, everything. But as you can see, there are TypeScript errors right here. And you might be thinking, what do we do about that? Well, we can go to our main source file, we can create a new types folder. And inside this types folder, we will create a next.d.ts. In this next.d.ts, we are going to do this. I'm going to copy and paste it from here. And what is happening here is that we are declaring types for the packages that we are using in next.auth and next./jwt. We are declaring a module of types for it. So we are defining what the session will look like. We are defining what the next.jwt will look like, everything. So this session right here is this session that we are declaring right here. We are adding a few things to the session. We are appending it. So we're using the earlier user object that we were using, which is name, email, and image. And we are adding an ID, we are adding a username and a name to this object right here, so that we don't get any errors. Let's go over here. The image still doesn't seem to be. Let's do that. And now as you can see, it refreshed and it has all the things that we want from our JWT token in our session itself. We have the name, we have the email, we have the image, we have the ID, and we have the username itself.
This time we are going to declare the schema. What do we need? What do we want? How are we going to manage the threads? I'm going to manage the threads and I'll show you how I'm doing it. If you have any disagreements, first of all, leave a like and subscribe, and then you can fucking say whatever you want to say to me in the comment section, you know. Alright, no, I want you to tell me if there is a better way to do what I'm going to do right now. So the thing is, last time we also set up a little bit of UI, and we did it just to set up the backend. We did it to check whether our next.auth is working. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to delete everything. We're going to delete. We don't need all of these things. And now that is going to throw an error, sure. But now we are going to go and fix that error. We're going to go to the main page, app page.tsx. And where we don't have any of these, which page was this? Let's delete our auth in the first place. Let's do that. And now we are on our main page. We don't have any problems. Alright, so now on the main page, the thing that we're going to do is that we're going to give it a little different styles. We are still have the pre-component here. Let's comment that out. Now we have a fresh page right here. It is completely controlled by light and dark mode. Let's go back to our page and let's not worry about this right now. Let's go to our schema. Our schema is incomplete. Alright, in our schema right now, we have just set up our personal next.auth. Now we need to set up all the schemas for the threads and how they are connected to the users and everything like that. So we're going to go to our users first of all, and we are going to add a username, which we did in the last video or the last section of this tutorial, however you're watching this. We can now go below. One thing that we have also not done here is this. Export const threads. Alright, we'll follow Drizzle a little bit. Then we are going to add an ID. This ID is going to have a UUID by default, which we are going to import from here. Then it will have a text and a user ID. This is how it will be connected to the users. The text will be the main text that will be the content of the thread. And next we're going to add a created at, which will be the default time right now. Then we'll have the parent ID and another field, this new field, dialog ID. So one thread is going to be connected to another thread using the parent ID. Parent ID is going to tell us, all right, this tweet is a parent. This tweet is the parent of this particular tweet. That's how we're going to connect two tweets in order. And the dialog ID, which you might be wondering what the dialog ID does. This right here. This is going to connect one entire thread together so that we can only send one database request to get all the threads we need, and then we can perform our utility functions on it to arrange it in a right order using parent ID right here. And we'll arrange it. You'll see that it happens. I just wanted to show you how it happens. As you can see, I want to get you excited about what I'm doing here. So this is what I built. This is what I built right here. So this is what we want. This Kshitij should be present over here from me. So it is present right here. And when we click on this, we should get the entire thread that we just posted. Not just the first one, we should get the entire thread. So this is the main one. And when we click on this, we should get it and its child. Isn't that great? So that's what we're trying to achieve here. So we are going to use a dialog ID. Now we are going to export its type. And now we are going to establish a relationship. We are going to establish a relationship between a thread and a user. So we are going to get this particular thing right here. And this is how you set up relationships in Drizzle ORM. So we are telling Drizzle ORM that, hey, this threads that we just declared, it is related one-to-one to the user. Like one thread can have one user. A thread cannot have multiple users. A thread can only have one user, and a user can have multiple threads. We also have to declare the user relationship. So now that thread is related to the user, we can also say that users. So right here we told it that the threads can have one user, and one user can have a lot of threads. So when we get a user, we can also get their threads together at the same time. Alright. Now we have declared the schema. Now what we're going to do is that we are going to generate a SQL file that we set up the script in the last section of this video. If you remember, we're going to generate the SQL file and then we are going to push it to our database. Now we are done. We've done our modeling for the database, and now we are going to work on the UI. Let's start working on the UI. So what I'm going to do right here is that I'm going to start my server again, where the Next.js app actually runs, both the client and the server basically. So we are going to get that again, and then we are going to go to our layout. We're going to wrap our entire app with a div. We're going to add a sidebar here. So we have a sidebar right here. Let's also add a toaster, not from this. We added a toaster from CN. We don't want to use that. We are going to use, it was from Sauna. I've made a video about Sauna. If you're interested, you can check it out. Components. Let's use a client directive. Let's use a client component. I'm going to write a client toast so that it doesn't cause any problems with Next 13. I'm going to paste this right here, which is just using the toaster in a client component so that we are not shown any errors. Let's go back to our layout.tsx, client toast. Now, usually when I have things that I'm not using right here, for example, a toaster, why am I not using a mode toggle? I have no idea. Let's use a mode toggle right here so that we can change between our themes. And whenever I have things over here, I like to clear them out using Alt-Shift-O. So that clears out all the unused imports. So that's a very nice little thing that I've learned. Let's start up our server again and check for any errors. And if this layout persists when we actually start a new server, so this should be like this. And of course, when we go full screen, it should have a division on the right as well. So, alright, so it works without any errors. That's beautiful. Now, our main purpose is to show a dialog box when we are not logged in. That is what we want to do right now. So let's create a dialog component. We can use shadcn's dialog box. Let's go to shadcn. Let's use their components. Alright, while this is being added, I'm going to create a new client component, which is going to be auth. Right, this auth_alert.tsx is going to be our client component, our client dialog box. So let's go over here. Before we do that, how are we going to show our dialog box, right? Let me set up a Zustand store in this app real quick. A Zustand store is a global state management store that we're going to add right now. So we don't have to worry about context and everything. You can just use Zustand. We've added Zustand now. So let's go to source. Yeah, this is what we're going to do. Then we're going to go back to our auth alert. We're going to say auth alert export const. I like doing export const. I don't like to default export anything. It's way easier. It's cleaner most of the time. Except the dialog close. Let's go to our dialog component and let's get the close const dialog close equals to dialog primitive dot close, and now we can export dialog close along with all the other components because I want some kind of control over how I want to close my button and things like that. So now, how I'm going to close my auth alert dialog box. We're going to go here. We're going to get that, and now we are going to the dialog box right here. It's pretty easy. Just use this. Let's remove this. Let's get the button from Shadcn itself, and let's get the open and on open change from our Zustand store. So we can use any button from anywhere inside the app to invoke this dialog right here, any page. So the functions that you give to open and on open change, these are basically when you open the dialog, you just set it open, and when you close it, however you want to close it, by clicking on the backdrop, by clicking the close button, this open will set itself to false using this set open function. It's pretty cool. Now we've set up our alert that will alert us whenever we are not logged in. Let's set up the sidebar now. Let's start our app and start using our sidebar. In the sidebar, I want the sign in button and the sign out button. Let's go to our sidebar. Let's open our sidebar, and this sidebar is going to be a client component because we are going to be using functions from this. This entire thing doesn't need to be a client component. I guess the sign out button and the that thing could be a component. Yeah, the sign out could be a client component. It doesn't need to be a client component. Yeah, screw it. Let's add, first of all, let's use class name flex. Sign in and sign out will be client components. Let's create. So to handle messages, I have a really good function right here that I found online. I'm going to go to my lib. I'm going to go to utils, and I'm going to right here. So this thing right here uses Zod to check if the error is a Zod error. That is it a schema error? Is it being caused because of a schema or something like that? And if it is, then it uses it and gives us a nice little toast. So we're going to use this. We're going to go back to our sign in, and we're going to use catch error. And then we're going to stop worrying about it. Now, if there's any error while trying to sign in with Google, then it will show us a good toast. It will show us what the problem is. And if it is not, so basically what is happening here, there's a button right here, there's a Google icon, and there's a Google text tag. There's a text tag, and on the click of this button, of this Google button, we are going to go over here. We are going to set is loading to true so that our button is disabled, and then we try to sign in. We try to sign in with Google, and well, finally whatever happens, we change it to false. No matter what, whether it succeeds or not, it doesn't succeed, we set it to false. Now we are going to go back to our sidebar and we are going to add sign in. And this sign in with Google should only be shown when I don't have a session. So if session doesn't exist, I want it to be shown. And now it should vanish because we have a session. We are logged in, so we don't need to sign in again. Let's create a new client component. Let's create a sign out. We are going to use this. If session doesn't exist, show me sign in, and if it does, show me sign out. Alright. Alright, so we have a sign out button right here, and if we sign out, we have a sign in button now. That's pretty much what I was trying to do. So now let's sign in again. I can't show you my emails. I just can't bother blurring it every time, so I'm going to go off screen every time. So I'm going here. In the last video, I think I forgot this particular thing right here. I didn't add a where clause. How am I going to update the ID if I don't know where the ID needs to be updated? That's crazy. So this is this thing right here where I'm going to say where it is equal. So and hopefully, alright, now we are logged in successfully. That is what the problem was. I didn't update my email correctly. I forgot this right here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to save it. And now we are signed in successfully. Congratulations. But the thing is, when we are signed out, we are supposed to set open true, the dialog box that will tell us, please sign in. Please don't use it without signing in. We are going to go back to our sign in auth alert. We are going to get the will put the auth alert. Let's add it and give it a session, which is going to be a session from the root layout. So let's get a session. We won't add auth alert to all of the components because doing this will add it to all of them. Let's just add it to the main page. Now we can use effect right here. So we can say use effect just once, and use effect if session doesn't exist, then set open as true. That's pretty much it. So now let's try it. Let's save it right here. And right now we have a session. So we shouldn't get the auth alert. Let's sign out and see what happens. Here it is. Sign. Please log in with Google. Beautiful, right? Once you sign out, so here's the flow. Here's the flow that takes place. Right now, this is still happening. This right here, since we've put this in our main page, we can put client components on a server page. So this is the client component right here. Whenever this is being rendered on the server, this is being rendered on the client, and it's getting the session from the server. It is checking if the session exists or not, and if it doesn't, then it's setting this open, and we can exit it right here and it's no worries. But if we refresh it, we'll get the dialog box again. What I want to do is I want to also, there's a continue button right here, which is amazing. I also want to add a login with Google button, right? Let's add sign in right here. Sign in from sign in. And now let's refresh our page and we get the sign in button right next to the continue button. We should get the sign in button first, and instead of continue, let's say I don't wanna, right? So just click I don't wanna and you are fine. I'm going to sign in again. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to sign in with my email account. And I'm going to come back here and it's perfect. It's great. We don't have to worry about a thing. Now that we have set up our auth alert, I guess, now we can start working on our form to actually enter the tweets. Let's create a new client component, and to take in form data, we are going to use form, which is I think React hook form. React hook form. Oh, alright. Yarn add React hook form. Now we can go to our here, add thread form. Let's go to our main page. Oh my god, this is painful. UI is so painful, I swear to god. Let's go to our main page, and instead of this, let's add thread form. Alright, now we should get our add thread form right here. We have not started the thing. Let's do that. This will be validations/thread.ts. Export const add threads schema. Now why add threads, right? We're going to add multiple threads at a time. That's how we're going to take care of this entire app. So we're going to say Zod. Let's import add thread schema. Let's import Z from Zod. Let's import Zod resolver. We don't have Zod resolver. Let's import it. We don't have hook form /resolvers, so let's get hook form /resolvers. Now the thing is, this is what I'm trying to achieve. If I show you what I'm trying to achieve, I think it will be better. I want to be able to write here, and when I click here, I want to be able to add a new field. Then I want to add a new field, and I just want to be able to add new fields forever. That's what I wanted to do right here. So we are going to do this. I just want to show you what I'm trying to achieve here, so you'll have a better idea of what I'm doing. I'm going to copy paste this thing that useForm gives us. Use field array. This is basically the fields that we will be using to get input. So you just watch and you'll understand. I think it will be very easy for you to understand once you watch it. We're going to return a form. We're going to close the form, and then we are going to close the form right here. Let's get the form from Shatcn's UI. So let's say p-npm add form. So it will add the form in a minute. Oh, add thread form is not a client component. Let's make it a client component. So add thread is a button right here. Now let's add a field. Let's add a I'm going to come here, I'm going to say a form field, I'm going to end it, and I'm going to use 0 right here. So the thing is, I want to take this default value right here. I'm going to go into threads right here, default value. I'm going to go into the text and change it. Right now it's nothing, so let me do that. Let's import form field, and inside the form field it should have a render property. So render, I think it has a field property, I'm pretty sure, which is forwarded to the thing that is being rendered. So let's use an input. Use a simple input. Let's not worry about it that much. Input, and give it a name of the field name. So this field name is the same name that we've given it right here. It's nothing much. Let's return this input, and hopefully this should be rendered right here. And now you will notice that threads.0.text will be controlled by this input right here, this right here, and this will change when I change the input. Alright, I know it's very hard to understand, but just give it some time. I'm sure you will understand. Just want to stringify. I'm going to say form watch. This is how you watch what is happening. You can console, you can see what is happening. So right here, text is this, and dialog ID is 7. This. What we told it to be. We wanted it to be this. If we refresh it, the UUID will change. Now it's a new UUID. What is the error? Text does not match the server rendered HTML. Alright, so I think what we will have to do is that we should have to go here. We'll have to go to set dialog ID, and we can say in a use effect, every time we mount the add thread, we can just set dialog ID as this, and now it should work. I think that was the problem. Right? Alright. So if I type something in here, we are still not getting anything. That's interesting. I think we have to spread our entire field over here. Let's do that. Yeah, there it is. And now it works. We didn't give it an on change. So yeah, now it works. We just had to spread the field in our input. So that's how this basically works. But we are going to be using a field array. A field array allows us to add new fields and remove the new fields that we just added. So instead of a form field right here, we are going to go to fields dot. Now we are going to use this right here. Close this here. Alright, so GitHub Copilot is recommending us something right now. Let's try it. This in a column. And now the button here is delete. Let's add an add button as well. I think delete has to be inside the map, but add doesn't have to be. Yeah, delete has to be inside the map, but I don't think add has to be. Alright, so we can add new fields, and then we can delete those old fields as well. So for example, I can write this, I want to delete this, so I delete that. So that's how we are going to set this up, but we are going to use a very pretty version of this. Since you don't need to worry about the, I don't know, the UI of this, I'm going to spare you from caring about the UI. I'm just going to copy and paste it from where I already have it. I've used Framer Motion as well, so it looks pretty good. It looks very nice. I'm going to go to fields.map, And I'm going to return this particular thing right here. This. Now we don't have a motion. Sure, we don't have a motion. Let's get a motion. Yeah. Frame a motion. I barely know her motion. What? Frame a motion. Let's add frame a motion. Let's get that. Frame a motion. This is going to add a lot of JavaScript to our application, but I'm ready to take that risk. I swear. It's fine. I'll take it. Now add thread form should also take a session because we are using a session to use some of these variables. For example, showing the image of the whole thing. We are going to get some domain errors right here. We'll figure those out later. But let's get a session from the add thread form session. Yeah, now where is the text area coming from? You might be wondering. It's coming from React text area auto size. So this is coming from a new component that we will have to create. Let's go to client components. Let's create a text area. And for this text area, we will have to check out a library called React text area auto size. React text area auto size. We're going to go to add thread forms. We are going to get add text area. Haven't we exported anything? RAFC. Let's do that. Let's get the text area right here. And then this is going to be a client component as well. So I'm going to save it. And I'm going to get the text area right here. Now let's check out what the other messages are. It's a form message. We'll get the form message right here. It's an X icon from Lucid React. And now, if there are not any other errors right here, text area, we don't have to default export it. We need to export text area right here. And that should solve the problem. Module declares, yeah. Now let's restart our entire server and let's see how this looks. As you can see, we are getting this error. I told you we would get a domain error. Let's go to our next config and let's go to our images domains, and I'm just going to copy it and paste it from here. Images right here. And since we are already here, let's also enable server actions that we will be using very soon. Let's restart the server. Alright, so we are getting this thing right here properly, and we are getting our form as well. So let's think, and it works. So we are going to do this. We are going to remove this right here, and it works perfect. Let's go back to our page, our session. We have not given it the session. Let's give it the session right here, and now it should give us our profile picture right here. Please give me my profile picture right here. No? Alright, we're not getting our profile picture. Are we not signed in? What's up with that, huh? We are signed in. Yeah, exactly. Come on. Don't do this to me. You're playing with me. Come on. It's teasing me bit by bit. Alright, so we got into some error. Let's refresh the page. Alright, let's restart the server. Let's clear out a .next file. Yes. Come on. Yep. Since we're doing this again, let's check for any best practices errors right here. Now it has begun. Let's see how it works.
All right, so now we have this. Now this we have working right here. We can add the first tweet. We can add the second tweet. We can go back to our page. Let's submit this. Let's see what happens on submit. Once we submit, we don't have a submit button. That's crazy. Button. Submit. We're good. And let's see what happens when he's
Taking what cool.
it's outside the form, that's why it's not. Wow, that's good. It is outside the form. Of course, it's not submitting anything. Let's submit it now. And now we have a threads which has 2 objects of on our thread. All right, good job. It works. God damn it. I like making UI, but I hate explaining how I did it. All right, so this is the working thing that we have going right here. Whenever write a tweet, nice to have validation as well. That's good. Now let's add it. Let's do that. Let's submit it. And we are getting our entire data. And right here, we have 4 threads here. We have 4 threads here. Now the question is of submitting this. So as I said before, you have to go to Next.js config. Let's go to next config. And you have to enable experimental server actions. Now I'm going to go to create a new folder. It's going to be called actions. I'm going to create a new thread.ts. On top, I'm going to write use server so that it knows that all the functions in here are going to be used inside a server, not on the client, the server. This is what is going to happen here. Let's go to our actions. Input will already be passed by Zord because we are using a Zord resolver in our use form. It will be fine. Our schema is going to be fine because it is being passed by Zord right here in the client itself, right here. We just did it. We just passed it. We gave it a resolver. It's going to be clean data. That's what I'm trying to say here. Now we are going to get our session. We are going to get our session on the server. We are going to check if we are logged in or not. And if we have not logged in, then we throw an error. If it's not session, we are going to return an error. Not authenticated. They are not logged in. Fine. Now when we call our add threads action from our client component, we cannot do anything if it doesn't, if we are not logged in. Now input has threads. So let's get our threads right here. Now, since we have thread right here, let's see what the error is. Use before its declaration. Alright. We cannot use threads right here. Now. Alright. So we need values right here. We need to give it a text user ID to create it. We can give it an object, or we can give it an array to create multiple of them. And even in here, we'll get those options. So it needs to have a text. It needs to have a user ID. And created a dialog ID and idea and parent ID are taken care of by themselves, but we don't want it to take care of it by itself. We don't want to do that. We want all of these threads that we are getting right here in threads. So input threads, all of these, we want them to have certain values that we will generate right now. We want all of these threads to have a common, we want them to have a dialog ID. And we want them to have a parent ID as well. Now the parent ID, so for example, if we have some threads, we have, for example, we have a thread right here, we have a thread right here, we have a thread right here, and we have a thread right here. The parent ID of this should be the ID of this. The parent ID of this should be the ID of this, and the parent ID of this should be the ID of this, and the parent ID of this should be null. That's what we need to arrange right here. So to do that, let's get rid of our database interaction right here just for a second. Let's go to input.threads, and for each thread in this particular list, in this array, we need to push it into a new. We need to push each thread into a new final thread. So let's do that. Const result threads goes to an empty, and this result thread will have a typed thread which we exported from our schema, if you remember, an array of these types. So for each thread, we need to go in here and we need to do this right here. That's what we need to do. Now UUIDs. Where do we get these UUIDs from? Alright, I think I jumped a little ahead. Alright, let's do that. Now what we're going to do is that we're going to get a list of UUIDs that we are going to use. So the number of tweets, how many ever number of tweets we have, that many UUIDs we will need. So I'm going to create a function right here, this. So the ID of the first thread will be set to the first element of the list UUIDs. And the parent ID of the second thread will be set to the ID of the first thread. So that's how they will be connected right here. Similar to this right here. The ID of the current thread will be the parent ID of its child. You know what I mean? So let's do that. And let me just show you what I mean by this. Let me get this. Let me say I right here. And UUIDs doesn't exist right now. So let's get it. Const UUID equals to, get the length from here. And let's import v4 and UUID v4. That's it. Now we have a list of UUIDs, and for each thread we can see what the error is now. It's not assignable to a type this. Okay, created at. We don't need created at. So let's get our own type. It will be way quicker. Let's omit created at. Let's just, let's. This is going to be an async function and everything is fine. Alright, let's save it. Let's go back to our app. Let's not refresh it and let's just add a thread. Let's see what happens. Let's submit. Let's submit and see what happens. Alright, now we have a console log right here. Now notice this. The first thread has an ID of null. The second thread, parent ID, is equal to the first thread's ID. The third thread's parent ID is equal to the first thread's ID. Now let's insert this entire array into the database. So that's what I'm going to do right here. Instead of this, I'm going to put results array and I'm going to await it. Await the insert. And then after doing that, I will revalidate this current page. Revalidate path, the main page. I just want to revalidate it. This is like refreshing the cache. Right? One more thing, let's go to forms, add thread form. Once this onSubmit function is correct, finally, if it is, it works. Then toast dot it worked and it didn't show anything over here because we are not showing it in the main page. There is nothing, there is no thread list right here. Let's create a thread list. Let's give it a thread data equals to an empty list. Right now it's fulfilled, but over here we'll have to get thread data equals to await get thread data get feed data feed path. Let's create this action in our actions actions folder, actions file, thread actions file. Function. Now in this feed action, we need all the tweets whose parent ID is null. We don't need all the tweets. We don't need all the tweets and its children. That would be too much if we do that. We just need the first tweet, the tweet that starts the thread. We need those, but of different threads. If you know what I mean. The threads and tweet language is really confusing because we are building a thread clone right now. With that, let's go here to the main page. Let's encode this. And it does. Of course it does. Why wouldn't it? And the parent ID is null as we wanted it to be. Now we have to give it a beautiful UI. It's the most painful and the most time-consuming part of this entire thing. I'm just going to copy it from somewhere if you don't mind, because I just cannot be bothered anymore. I just don't care that much. Honestly, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. This is a motion div that we will get from Java motion. Let's do that. Then import motion from Java motion. Please, come on. Alright. This is just to make these things look good and nothing else. Please don't worry about this stuff. I'm just trying to make my components look good. That's it. We can check it out if you want to. I'll put the link on GitHub. But I cannot. I swear, I cannot be bothered with explaining how the UI works. This video is already too long than it needed to be. So in the header, I'm trying to show it. Alright, so the thread doesn't have a user. That is a problem. We don't want that to happen. You can go back to our schema, and where we are, not the schema, the action, the thread action. We can go back there and we can just so we can't use queries right now, huh? So the thing is, we have to, when we are initializing DB, I think we have to do something right here. So I think when we are initializing it, we also have to give it the schema. Alright, when you give it the schema, we'll import everything from a schema, And I hope you are exporting everything right here. Export type. Yes, we are doing that. We'll go back to threads. We'll go back to our DB right here, and we'll give it the schema. And now we should have access to threads right here. Yep, there it is. Threads, we need to give it a query of threads where these are pretty much all the things I think we are going to need. And now the thread should have a user. We'll fix the ID, and now this should not be a problem right here. Alright, we don't have a button. Let's get that button. We don't have a delete thread. Let's not worry about that right now. And let's get a trash from user React. Let's save it. And let's see what happens. Let's start our server. So this is a server component right now, which we don't want it to be. We can take thread list out of here. Alright, now you can see that it is working. Nothing happens right now. If you click on it, we'll be shown an error, which is fine. We'll talk about it later. We are basically guiding our user to the link, which is basically dialog / the ID of the current thread that you're clicking right here. We'll talk about it in a bit. So now if we create a new is submit, we should get it immediately. We should get a toast. And we have this thread right here. But now when I click on one of these, I want to be guided to this page where this will show me it and its children. So first let's take care of showing it itself. Alright, so now this is on Dialog and a dynamic route. So let's go to our app directory. So over here, I call this a dialog because I would have called it a thread when I'm making a Twitter clone. I can't call it a thread when each component of that thread is also called a thread. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to export one default idea, and now we have an empty page. In an empty page, we can get the params right here. This is going to be params, which is going to have an ID, which is going to be a string. We cannot because we forgot to add a minimum 8 screen to our layout. So we are going to go back to layout, and we're going to wrap the grid with a 8 screen div, which means that it will take the height of the screen, or no matter what. So let's go back to this here, and let's see what this div is right here. Let's go over here. Let's close this div. Alright, now we get the parameter right here. Using this parameter, let's get the first read from the database. Let's using this. Let's go over here. Let's go to actions. Let's call it get dialog for thread, which is that's what we're doing. Let's get an ID. This should be a string. Over here, we will get points to result. Let's to await db.query.threads find first, which is that these are going to only find one. There the ID is the ID is ID. That's pretty much what we want. You cannot use there apparently. Okay, that's cool. Find first. Then equal to threads ID and ID. That's and then we can return this result. Get dialog for thread returns the result, and after the before returning the result, we can just we don't have any thread by that ID. And now we have the thread that we were looking for. Now comes the important part. Before the important part, this is the most fun part of this entire thing. Before the important part, let's go back to our page.id, and now let's add some UI to the stage. Right? Let's add some good UI. I'm not going to again waste my time on it, but I think it will be fun. Let's add all the imports that are missing right here. Main thread.user.name, since we didn't include a user already. Beautiful, right? This is our image, this is our username, and this is our thread itself. Now comes the fun part. We are going to, on the same page, on this very same page, what you're going to do is that we're going to get an array of all these things children. And we're going to do it in a way that took me too much time to figure out. As you know, I'm not that smart. It takes me a lot of time to figure things out. So I'm going to go back to my actions, get dialog per thread. This is just one of the things that I want to do. This is just one of the things that I want to do, as in get the thread that we want, right, on the dynamic page. This is just one of the things that I want to do, getting the thread on the dynamic page. Now, if we don't have this, we'll say if now that we have the dialog ID of this thread, we can fetch the entire thread right here. We can get each and every member of that entire thread in the server, on the server. So let's get that. Let's get the dialog. Let's use GitHub Copilot's help right here. Dialog ID is a string or null. So let's make sure the dialog ID is also not null. Let's do that. And now we have secured the dialog ID and results are not null. And if result is not null, then dialog ID will not be null anyways. We have made sure of that on the UI. So now we have the dialog. Let's console log this dialog. We not protected the image against not finding anything. Alright. Yeah, now let's check out that we have that entire thread that we are looking for. That's why we use the dialog ID, because it's easier to find the entire thread. Now what we want to do is that instead of this, so the thing is, this is just two threads, right? Let's create a new thread. Let's go back to our main page, and right here, let's create a long thread. Alright, now let's submit this. And we have one right here. Now if we click on it, we don't have one yet because we're not returning anything. But in the console, you'll notice that we have all of them, 1, 8, 7, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1, everything. We have all of it. I'm not sure. I want to make sure that these are in order. I don't just want to show them anyhow, any way that the database decides to get it. I want this algorithm to be robust against database changes, behaviors, everything like that. Again, comment down below if you think I'm wrong right here. But what I'm going to do is that first I'm going to add all of these threads into a map. So I'm going to do this right here. And I'm going to make sure that I don't get the first thread itself, this thread right here. So I'm not going to get, so I'm going to add and threads ID to ID. Yeah, I don't want this thing itself. I don't want summer. And now we have this. And over here, and let's check out the console. Now we have all of the dialogues. We don't need all of the dialogues. We just need, let's go over here. Let's empty it. Let's start it again. Let's go to our actions, actions. And now we don't want all of them. We just want all of its members of the same thread, but not it itself. So let's do that. And now let's see what we are logging right here. Let's see what we log. Let's refresh it and let's check it out. Alright, now we have everything, but instead of it itself, we have all of its members, but not it itself. Now what we need to do is that we have to, now we can start preparing the solution. Now we can start preparing our final result, which is going to be, well, let's put result in here first, and then we'll talk about what we need to do to this result. Now, everyone, listen to this. We are going to create a map. We are going to create a parent. And this thread is not just going to be a thread. It is going to be a type. The first, the result itself. My bad. Type of result. So now the map is basically, it takes the entire thread that we will receive over here. Now we can essentially dialog for each thread, correct? Now we need to set the key as the parent ID and the value as the thread itself. So that's what it's doing right here. Null, the parent ID can be null right here. Parent ID can be null. Just say that parent ID, it will always have it. Don't worry about it. Parent ID is not going to be null. And the thread right here is going to, you can say now, let current ID, where's the result dot parent ID? Alright, sure. Current parent ID is equal to result dot parent ID. So this is the result dot ID, not parent ID. So the current parent ID will be result dot ID. So the first result that we will get over here from the ID. So on the page that we are on, this ID will be sent right here. The thread will be fetched. All of its thread members will be fetched right here. Now the thread that was fetched earlier, the main thread, is the ID of that main thread, this right here, is going to be set as the current ID. And we're going to check which tweets in the dialog array has the parent ID, which is equal to this. So we can say that while and there it is. It's working. Great, right? Now look what happened when I click this. You should notice that when I click on this, the ID of this will be passed on over here. The API will be called with this new ID, and all of its children will be fetched from the actions. This algorithm works in a way that only the children are fetched. All of the dialog is fetched over here, and then we start only appending from the child. Once we have the current thread, we get its parent ID, and we start appending from that parent ID. Look right here. We start searching from that parent ID in that same array. And then, so that the while loop will run only the number of times, the number of children that it has. So if I say, Right now, there are 4 iterations. So let's go back. Now we're the 8 iterations. This should have only 3. This was cached before, so it didn't console log again. Let's go back. Let's go to 7. There's only 2 iterations for itself and this. So that's how this works. It will take less time if, you get it. It will take less time if you go to visit a lesser thing right here. It won't take all the time in the world. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I was just wanting to show you how this algorithm works. And yeah, that's about it. Bye. Now you know that we can add threads. We have a thread right here. In the last section, we decided to do that. Let's add the deletion function. But right now, our priority is to limit the link component to only the header. So we are going to go here and we are going to say that our priority right now is to limit the link component to this header right here. We're going to go to header and we're going to go over here. We're going to say thread list. So now we only go here on clicking on this, and when we click this button, nothing happens. But we want something to happen when we click this button. We want it to send a request when we click that button. Let's come here and let's go over here and let's do that. But we don't have a delete thread. We don't have anything like that. Let's go to our actions. Now, when we delete a thread, we don't just want to delete that single thread, because then we will have something like this where Twitter has something like that, but Threads doesn't. When you delete a thread, all its children get deleted along with it. So that's the kind of arrangement that we're looking for in this particular section 2. So for example, if we go over here and let's go over here, and when we click this, we want to delete this and its children. Let's go to our actions where we are already right now. So first of all, we are going to get this entire dialog and we're going to get its children. So the exact same thing as what we did right here. So the best part over here is that we can use this function right here itself. We can just use this function to get all the dialogs. So this function right here, it has 2 database interactions. The additional third one will be the delete interaction in this function. So we are going to come here, we're going to say const dialog equals to await get dialog for thread and ID. Now if we console log our dialog right here when we delete it, let's do that, delete thread action, and let's import delete thread action here. Let's save it and let's see what our console logs. So right here, this is just one thread right here. But when you do this, we should get 8 objects in our dialog box. So that's that. Look, from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now the thing is, if I want to be able to delete this as well. I want to be able to delete this, and this should delete 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's put a delete button right here as well. Let's go to our let's check out where this is. Let's go to our ID. Where is our dynamic page? So to go here in this replies component, and we're going to add a button component to it. Alright, the variant needs to be ghost, so it at least looks good. Alright, so now we have a delete button. On click of this button, let's check if it has a use client. This is not a client component. Let's turn the reply component into a client component. So now when I click 6, I should have 6, 7, 8 deleted, right? let's go to our actions and just revalidate our this page. So this, and this should now work. Let's delete 6. First of all, let's remove the link component from everything. Let's just limit it to the headers. Let's now this should be clickable, and this is not clickable. Only if we click this we will get to the next page, but if we click this delete button we should be deleting 6, 7 and 8 right here. Let's try it. It works. It works. Alright, let's try deleting something from the main page. Let's delete this. It works. How great is that? And if we go over here, it has no replies. So if it has no replies, then don't show the card, right? Yeah, it takes care of it. If I go over here, one that has no replies, I'll delete each one right here. Let's do that. Let's do that. What was the error? Alright. Now let's create a new thread. Let's add many. Alright, so the thread was added successfully. And now if we go over here and we delete the 4th one, yeah, this works. And we can go ahead and delete the entire thread and it's gone. We have no threads in our database right now. So this is the end of the tutorial. That's what I wanted to show you. I just wanted to explore this entire ecosystem myself. It's pretty selfish, honestly. It was for my own sake that I did this, and if you learned something, I'm so happy you did. I'm glad you did. So I'm going to put this on GitHub right now. And I will give you the link. And now I'm going to give you this entire thing in the description right there down below. So this is the end of this. It was just a to-do app. Web development is just creating to-do apps in different ways, and that's what I've learned. So yeah, I'll see you in the next big thing that I do. I don't know. Bye.